What I want to do is I want to talk to you today about the 5 questions most people never ask themselves about your potential. Potential is one of those things that can work for you or against you. Did you get that? Potential is one of those things that can work for you or against you. There's something called permanent potential. And permanent potential is most people that have permanent potential, they never reach their true potential. They never maximize their potential, but yet they have it permanently. It's just not engaged. And you also have maximum potential. Maximum potential is the limit of your potential that you think is there, to be perfectly blunt, but there are no limits on your potential. It's just, that's a lie. There's other different forms of potential. But what I want to do is I want to ask you a question. Have you ever sat down and had a conversation with yourself about your own potential? Some people look at potential as like, well, I got potential to do this or potential to do that, but they never do much with it. And that's called stagnant potential. And the reason why is because it's stagnated because they never have engaged it. They never ignited it. They never catalyzed it. Well, these 5 questions you really need to ask yourself, because if you're going to build anything of significance, anything at 7, 8, 9 figures, anything like that at all, you have to understand where you are from a potential standpoint as well as intentional. There's potential, then there's intentional. Potential is what you're going to do. Intentional is what you demand to do. It's that simple. And today we're going to ask this one question. Is that something that you've ever held a conversation about with yourself? Well, today we're going to do that. Number one, what would happen and what would I be capable of if I stopped listening to people who quit? Think about that. What would happen to my potential if I quit listening to people who stop, who quit, who walk away from what they're doing? This question removes every limiting belief that you have, because most of the time our failure, our thinking is learned from other people. And you need to go deaf, DEAF. Don't even acknowledge their fear. Did you get that? Don't even acknowledge their fear, because most people that walk away live fear-based lives. Not faith-based, not hard work-based. They live fear-based lives. What would you be capable of if you quit listening to people who quit, who walk away, and that's just what they do? I had to have a whole hard conversation with myself, because a lot of my friends, when I first got started, even moving in after several years, there were still people that were expecting me to quit, to walk away, because that's just what they do. And people that walk away, people that quit, people that stop in the middle of something, they expect everybody else to do the same thing. You can't. What would you be capable of if you stop listening to people who quit what they're doing? Let me tell you, it would be one of the greatest revelations you've ever had on your true potential and what it is that you could really do. Second question is, what would I do, honestly? What would I attempt if I knew that success was absolutely guaranteed? I knew that I knew that I knew success was guaranteed. It doesn't matter. I could not fail. What would I do? And what would you attempt? Because again, if you couldn't fail, that means that you could attempt any single large endeavor. It doesn't matter what it is, and you would crush it. And you can't live in a Pollyannish world. Failure is real. There's no doubt about it. But because this reveals what you want versus what you think is safe. When you say, what would I attempt if I knew that I would absolutely succeed? Well, that's a safe place. That's a safe zone. That's a safe path, because you know it's going to succeed. Failure is real. But I don't look at failure. I want you to get this. I never looked at failure as failure. I just looked at it as the wrong results. I have looked at it for decades. If I did not succeed at something, it's just the wrong results. And the good news is results can be changed. What would you attempt if you absolutely knew that you were going to succeed beyond your wildest dreams? What would you attempt? This is the floor where you need to start building, because your potential, once you understand that if you start thinking that way, your brain will start taking you down that path. Did you get that? Your brain takes the thoughts that you think and says, okay, I've got to figure out here how we can make that happen in your life. Now it's very focused on protecting us, for sure. That's its job, survival. But when you start thinking in a whole new way, it may suddenly get a little freaked out and say, whoa, wait a minute, this is new, this is different. But when you start thinking, what would I attempt if I knew that I couldn't fail, if I knew that I could only succeed, and then start moving down that path to building something with that thought, your subconscious will help you build that in a way that you will succeed. Number 3, what do I need to become to really, truly build the life that I want? Think about that. What do I need to become to build the life that I want? Well, see, most of the people that are in business or have professions or in careers or anything like that, what they're building is a reflection of who they are. It's that simple. But what do you need to do in order to build the life that you want and the life that you deserve? Most people focus on getting. I think you would agree with that. Most people focus on get. What do you have for me? But people that are focused on building a life that you really, truly want, understand you're going to have to give more than you get. It's that simple. That is a billionaire truth. You're going to have to give more than you get. And it never changes, because it says in the Bible, as a man soweth, so shall he reap. But see, when you start giving, and become that person that you're building something, but yet you're giving out and doing things and making sure that people are going with you, people have a tendency to gravitate towards that trait, if you will, naturally. Be somebody that wants to build the life and become that somebody. Read books, listen to podcasts, hold conversations with people that are hugely successful. Listen to videos like this. But what do I need to do in order to build the life? And what do I need to become in order to do that? Very simple. You needed to become the best, what success demands, what wealth demands, but be a giver, not just a getter. Because the more that you give, eventually it's going to come back the more that you get. Number 4, what am I pretending that is impossible, but it's just uncomfortable? Oh, what am I pretending that is impossible, but it's just uncomfortable? That's tough, because many people say, well, that's impossible. There is no impossible. Write that down. T-I-N-I. There is no impossible. And the reason why is because impossible is simply an opinion. And most of the things that people think are impossible are not. They're just uncomfortable. They don't want to deal with it. And this is why that you need to understand that you have boundaries. If you think impossible is real, you have boundaries. And those boundaries, you need to test them. And then you need to obliterate them, because most people that pretend, say, declare, decree that that's impossible. No, it's not impossible. It's just uncomfortable, and they've never tested their own boundaries and limits to see that it can be done. That's your potential, guys. You have potential to move into what people call impossible because you've moved past the uncomfortable. Did you get that? And if you went in for all 3 years, let's say for first year, second year, third year, 3 years, and you gave it everything that you had, what would happen? Yeah, that's a good question. When I coach people, we always put together different targets and different paths, if you will. I call it a burn path, B-U-R-N. We put together a burn path, and we set success on fire down that path every single day. If you went in for all in for 3 years, what could you accomplish? This question really does get rid of the delusion that playing around will get you anywhere. I know people right now that are playing with their business, building their business, or pretending, but it's not going to happen because they're not all in. I'm not saying that you have to work 100 hours a week. What I'm saying is if you work 40 to 50 hours a week building something and you're all in those hours, I'll take somebody that works 10 hours a week that's all in versus someone that just work normal for 40. That 10 hours I can get more done with, build quicker, build faster, build bolder. And the reason for that is because they're all in emotionally, all in from a mental standpoint, and they're all in from a spiritual standpoint. They are going to make it happen. Do you have this kind of potential? What would I be capable of if I stopped listening to people that quit? What would I attempt if I knew that absolutely because the success was inevitable? What do I need to become in order to live the life that I want? What am I pretending is impossible, but to be perfectly blunt, is just uncomfortable? And if I was all in for 3 years, what kind of life and business could I build? You must hold this hard conversation with yourself. Did you get that? You must hold this hard conversation with yourself about your potential because I'm telling you, there is no impossible. The only thing that's impossible for people is what they refuse to test their boundaries, test their limits because they just is too uncomfortable. Many people get right to the point of where they're at the fire lane, that fire cross, if you will, where they have a fire burning, if you will, and they never cross over into that zone of greatness because it's too hot, because it's too uncomfortable, because the heat's too unbearable. But not for you. That's not who you are. You're going to take your potential after this video and you're going to rocket and skyrocket and you're going to use it for jet fuel. And you're going to say, I'm not listening to anybody anymore that quit. I know that I'm going to succeed. I'm going to give it all. I'm going all in for at least 3 years. And I'm no longer going to pretend something is impossible that realistically is just uncomfortable. Those are the things that you must do in order to be able to build the life, build a business that you want to build. And you can do this. You're going to do this. It's just a matter of you making that decision. Guys, explode your potential. I just gave you some hard conversations and questions. Answer them yourself, and then you gives you that paths in order to be able to know how to get to your potential and maximize it. Like, subscribe, send this video to somebody and save it. This right here, save it, because there's going to be people that need this video because they don't know anything about their potential, and this will show them where the potential flaws are in thinking and stuff that may harm their potential unnecessarily. Like, share, subscribe, join the Fire family. Man, we're doing some great stuff here in this YouTube channel. We got some crazy stuff coming too. That's all I'm going to say. Some crazy information that help build 10-figure, 11-figure businesses. Like, share, follow, spread the fire.